Greetings. My name is Luis Molina, and I'm the host of the Life Puro podcast. Today, I talked to Taylor Calandro, who is the third generation of local family grocer Calandro's Supermarket. We hope you enjoy today's episode. And if you would, please support this podcast by visiting shop.habanaport.com and look for the free shipping discount code in the description of today's episode.
Cool.
Thanks for coming in today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I didn't know y'all had been doing this for, I don't know.
44 weeks. Well, technically,
almost
it's a year. It's over a year. We missed a few weeks.
Cool.
Like maybe a guest reschedules. And the beauty of our podcast, though, initially I was thinking of, obviously make it cigar centric because that's what we do.
Yeah.
But because our market is so small, I felt like let's do a good life type of format.
I love it.
Yeah, we can draw in people from Rum World or
Sure.
like we just had the guys at Oxbow. I don't know if you carry any of their stuff.
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
People in the restaurant world.
Yeah, and I mean, we were just talking about it. I mean, you've got Jay Ducote who's done stuff like this before, but and I'm sure there's other people that do local stuff like this podcast. I'm just not really plugged into the local podcast situation.
Yeah.
To know if this is a thing. I think it's a great idea though. Like especially with our little niche in with cigars and with liquor and it's all kind of the same deal. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure the roots are very similar. I'm very green when it comes to cigars, so I'm excited to just learn about cigars. I'm much more versed in booze and food and stuff like that. So
Yeah. Well, let's get into it. If you want to smoke a cigar,
absolutely, man.
Yeah, help yourself. We'll do
like
the
I said,
cut
I'm
light.
very green, so I don't want people to judge me.
No. We've had some guests that never smoked a cigar, and this is their first time.
Oh, no,
smoked.
this isn't my first
Yeah.
time. I smoke cigars occasionally. The last cigar I smoked, and the reason I'm going to say this because it was one of the best 2 days of my life, was in April, I think. Yeah, April. I was in Augusta, Georgia for the Masters and for the
that's
golf
cool.
tournament.
Okay.
And I'm a huge golfer. So, and we were staying at a house, and the host had cigars for us and stuff. So, I'm assuming you peel that.
Yeah,
whole deal.
yeah. So this particular cigar has this like cover. So yeah, make sure to take it off.
That's a fancy cover. You
Yeah.
don't usually see them like that.
Yeah. So for people to keeping track at home, this is the Perdomo Craft Series. So Perdomo is a family business out of Nicaragua, Cuban family originally, but and he has a pretty interesting story. One of their executives was on the show. I forget how long ago, maybe 6 months, and he gave the story of Perdomo. Their family actually they had some political prisoners in Cuba during like the revolution and Castro and all that. So they definitely had no love for the communists, but very pro-American. Nick Perdomo is the patriarch now, and he's based out of Miami, but their factory's in Nicaragua. So anyway,
Cool.
they developed this series. It's no longer in production, so you're smoking a good vintage one.
So I've got the first question I have about cigars, and I know I'm not supposed to be asking you questions probably, but
I love it. No, let's do it.
Why I've noticed with cigars, and there's another trade like this too, but all of the cigar producing countries are just like crazy communist countries.
That's a good question.
Wait, that's
so
not a thing?
No, it's so a lot of the factories now for the premium cigar segment are based in a lot of Latin American countries. And just Latin America with their history. Yeah,
Ecuador, Nicaragua,
Yep.
they're all very volatile,
Yep.
crazy place.
Yep.
I just didn't
And
know
that's
if
Latin
there was-
America though for you. It's
Well,
all,
yeah.
1 year country X will be fine, and then all of a sudden it just destabilizes.
Maybe it's just the trend of the whole region, I guess. Is it? But I guess that's where all the tobacco comes from.
Yeah.
It's just very unstable. And the reason I ask this is because when I'm making tags for cigars and I'm going through where the wrappers are made and all that stuff, it's like, God, these places, it's like Nicaragua, Ecuador, Dominican Republic. They're all
We
just
have
kind
some
of crazy.
tobacco from Africa.
Oh, do
in
you?
Cameroon, yeah.
Cool.
And that part of the world too is not as stable as like the U.S.
Right. I just didn't know if it was a thing, like as far as the powers that be in those countries are involved in it, or what it is.
Yeah, I guess so. Tobacco as a plant really can grow anywhere. America grows a lot of tobacco, even as far north as Connecticut.
Yeah, but does the bulk tobacco comes from like the Carolina region?
That's for like a lot of cigarette tobacco and some pipe tobacco.
Mm-hmm.
But for cigar tobacco, you do find the plants being grown and like commercially harvested in like these Latin American countries that are not stable all the time. I mean, look, for Nicaragua, for example, the U.S. market didn't have a lot of Nicaraguan cigars before the 90s because I think there was an embargo against Nicaragua from the U.S. when they had the Sandinistas and the communists there, so it was very destabilized. And so you didn't see Nicaraguan cigars back then. You saw a lot of cigars from the DR, Dominican Republic, and Honduras.
Okay.
Cuba, obviously, we don't have any because there's still an economic embargo against Cuba.
So there still is the Cuban thing. I thought they did something with Cuba a few years ago.
Yeah,
but
they did.
They did?
So under President Obama's term, what he did, I think it was in December of 2012. Anyway, he announced, feel free to cut and light while I explain that. He announced during his term normalizing, quote unquote, of relations. So they didn't actually lift the embargo because that has to be an act of Congress. But depending on who the president is, they can kind of like do like weird, like gray legal type things, and they can start relations up. Our embassy had been closed, and then I think that's when they reopened the U.S. embassy in Cuba. And yeah, I mean, there's still the embargo, so like we're prohibited as a retailer from buying and selling Cubans. But depending on who the president is, they might allow U.S. citizens to bring back Cubans if they travel abroad.
So what is it? What is the mist around a real Cuban cigar?
So that's a valid question because we get that all the time from a lot of clients. So Cuba used to be like the mecca of cigar production and a lot of good tobacco for cigars. Pinar del Rio is like the Bordeaux, for wine with cigar tobacco. That's on the west side of the Cuban island. And that's where a lot of the masters were set up, for decades, if not a few centuries. Really start with the Spanish when they colonized Cuba, and the Spanish were the ones who really like promoted cigars. In fact, the modern day cigar, which is what we classify as wrapper, binder, and filler, was invented in Seville, Spain. I think in like 1670 something. But before that, people would just kind of crudely roll tobacco leaves and make like, a smokable like cigar, but it wasn't the cigar we know today. Anyway, Cuba forever was like the mecca for cigar production. And then the revolution happened in the late 50s. Early 60s when, you had, which is very typical in Latin America, the wealth gap is huge, right? So you have a huge amount of population of poor people, a very small ruling class who own all the assets.
Ultra wealthy.
Yeah, and then there's discontent. So all it takes is like some charismatic political leader, in this case Fidel Castro, to start a revolution and overthrow. And so during that time, Cuba nationalized a lot of businesses. They kicked out a lot of the landowners and the wealthy people. Even in the alcohol world, we pronounce it Bacardi, or the Americans Bacardi rum.
Yeah,
their distillery was in Cuba, but they were kicked out too, and they went to Puerto Rico. So you found that in the cigar world. A lot of the landowners or the cigar factory owners had to escape. So they went to these other countries like the DR, Honduras, Nicaragua. The Canary Islands was actually a big country or area where they went to initially. But a lot of them ended up in South Florida. So there's still this mystique with Cuban cigars because I think part of it is a forbidden apple dynamic where people want what they can't have, right? And this well with the alcohol and like the allocated stuff.
Yeah.
Now, if you ask an opinion of like whether they're worth that hype or not, that's subjective. I will say that I think the consistency has been lacking the last 20 years.
So there's no truth to like This is gonna sound crazy. I don't know if this is gonna sound crazy to you or not, but Cuban cigars having marijuana in them.
And I've heard that.
Okay.
That's a weird. I don't know where that came from, but that has no. That's not true at all.
Okay.
I mean, if it does, someone else did that, and that's not from the Habanos, like proper distribution. But I've heard that. I've heard people say that. Like, give me that Cuban.
I prefaced this conversation with I'm very green about cigars. So these are just like very basic questions that I've always wanted answered.
Yeah.
So
ask me anything cigar. Don't feel like sheepish or like, it's, not making you like hitting your ego or whatever. I like these questions because, I guess I've been in it so long. You've been in your trade so long that you kind of forget like just the basic questions.
My favorite people to talk to about my trade are people that know nothing about it.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So what are some of the questions they ask you? like a beginner or someone who doesn't know the grocer industry.
The grocer industry. I mean, I'm trying to think what I get asked the most.
How much money does it start a supermarket?
Man, so I have no idea. Our business was started during World War II in 1941 by my grandparents, and it was a little convenience store on Government Street, downtown Baton Rouge. It's in the same location that it's in now. It just was a little convenience store.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. I mean, initially it probably took them a couple grand. Mm-hmm. Now to open up a full blown grocery store, I would venture to guess
millions,
several million.
Yeah,
several $1 million to open up a grocery store, and I wouldn't recommend anybody do that either.
That's got to be one of the toughest industries because. And you don't have to explain or reveal, but like I do feel that the margins are very small compared to our margins. Like, and I'll be honest, like typically a typical markup of on a cigar, it's a keystone item, right? So if a box costs you $100, you sell it for $200. That's
right,
basic.
but so and well, exactly, and the higher margin things in the store are going to be obviously cigars, which we don't sell a ton of cigars. It's not our main business, but
you offer them.
Yes,
you offer,
absolutely. And even liquor. I mean, we make a little premium more than what we do on like groceries, which they're everyday items. Mm-hmm. So that's the difference. I mean, cigars. No offense, you don't need a cigar to get through the day, but you do probably need a loaf of bread and a gallon of milk. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, this is a luxury item, and high-end liquor and liquor in general, any kind of alcohol is a luxury item. And when it's a luxury item, you're going to fetch more for it. Mm-hmm. So, but the margins are very low, and the competition now is just crazy. I mean, our bread and butter for 70 years has been, I mean, we've been around for 80 years, but for 70 years it's just been customer service and face to face and yada yada. And now people generally they don't really care about that. They want convenience and quickness and time, like instead saving time and
pricing
and pricing obviously too. So it's just, I mean, as I'm sure y'all are a smaller retailer and y'all have to compete against big online shops and stuff like that, big wholesalers and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So it's the same thing. I mean, it's business is getting much harder to do.
Yeah.
And you have to adapt and you have to adjust. We've done that over the years. I mean, we've done things over the years that my grandparents probably never thought we'd do.
Yeah, I guess things were simpler or different back then.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But as the competition over time has passed,
you gotta adapt, man. Yeah. You have to adapt, and especially in like the alcohol industry. I mean, it's always about riding the wave. From month to month or from quarter to quarter, you don't know what's going to be hot and what's going to be not. So it's always about riding the wave with business, especially with alcohol.
We see that too in our stores. Like there's certain brands that are pretty hot for a few months, then they kind of die down. especially if it's like a new company. A lot of people want to try it out,
Yeah.
but does it have staying power? So we try to at least maybe bring in a little bit, get that initial
Right.
buying spree, but then we kind of wait and see what the consumer says.
So y'all's business since say the beginning of 2020 COVID.
Mm-hmm.
How has y'all's business been since pre-COVID?
I mean, COVID was actually a blessing for the industry. We did well.
Yeah, I mean,
we've
did
continued.
too.
Yeah, we've continued. Like we're still on the upward trend now. We've kind of flattened out in sales, but it's still at like all-time highs. At least in our modern within our modern memory, because like I actually studied the history of our industry. It'll nowhere be near like what it was in the late 1800s to early 1900s. We classify that as the golden age of cigars because 4 out of 5 men smoked cigars back then.
Really?
So 80%, of men, which I guess you can say like 40% of the population, smoked. Now it's like less than 1% of people that smoke.
It's
the only I guess the saving grace is that there's a bigger population. So yeah, maybe the numbers are about the same.
Yeah, I mean,
absolute, but like no, in percentage, like it's still nowhere near like what it was during the golden age.
It's funny you say that because, like, out of all my friends, as far as cigar smokers, I'm one of 2 or 3 of them. And we rarely smoke cigars around anybody else because everybody says it stinks and yada, yada, yada. And so, yeah, I'm sure this is becoming an extinct art for sure because everybody used to smoke. I'm old enough to remember, like, smoking sections in restaurants and stuff.
I bet at one point people smoked cigarettes in your grocery stores.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I remember growing up, I grew up in Metairie, going to Schwegmann's. You probably have heard of Schwegmann's.
I've heard of Schwegmann's, yeah.
I remember like going up and down the aisles, they had the little cigarette ashtrays at the end of every aisle.
Really? I'm not old enough to remember that, but I was moving some shelves at Government Street like 4 or 5 years ago. I was redoing the liquor, and I moved a shelf by the liquor counter, and there was just cigarette butts all underneath it. Whoa. And I was talking to my dad, and my dad's like, yeah, we used to smoke in the store. He didn't smoke, but he's like, yeah, they used to smoke in the store. And it's hard to
fathom that,
to fathom that. And like we're smoking inside right now, and it's just crazy to me. Now, my grandmother still smokes cigarettes, and God bless her, she still smokes inside. It's awful, man.
Whoa.
It's terrible. She doesn't live far from here, but like at this time of year, when it's 100 degrees outside, she doesn't like it to be hot in the house, so everything is contained in the situation. Man, it's terrible. Cigarette smoke in the house is terrible.
People younger than us can't really comprehend that culture and that activity back then, like in the 40s or 50s or before that, where people really could just smoke anywhere. I mean, I've heard of our old timer clients that would say like, "Oh, I used to smoke." We're talking like they're like 80 years old now. We used to smoke in courtrooms. We used to smoke in hospitals.
Yeah, I mean, we
used to smoke in airplanes.
It's always depicted in movies and stuff you watch, and it's especially kids. Now I'm 35 years old, and I vaguely remember smoking in restaurants, but I do remember it. But kids now have no clue, which is a great thing. I mean, it's a great thing to not have to smell smoke in a restaurant while you're eating. But you didn't think anything of it back then when you were doing it. I mean, when you got to the restaurant, they asked you smoking or non-smoking. Like it was, that's just what the hostess asked you when you got there. So
that's right. Yeah,
it's wild, man.
The real division of eras really started with the U.S. Surgeon General's warning, which I think first came out in 1963, maybe. I'll have to look that up. But that, like, ever since then, that's when, like, I think the trends really just started to go downward. Like, that was the zenith of cigarette usage. Because it's mainly cigarettes we're talking about.
Yeah. But I mean,
but people smoke cigars too.
Yeah, but it still affects the cigars. I mean, they have surgeon generals on, no?
So we're different. Our industry is different. We don't fall under what they call the master settlement agreement. So if you remember, during the 90s, they had the big lawsuits against big tobacco.
Yes.
And one of the results of that was this agreement called the MSA, the Master Settlement Agreement, where there were a lot of restrictions and other policies that had to be enacted. So, for example, NASCAR used to be sponsored by Winston.
Yes.
So the Winston series,
Cup,
right?
yeah.
For the cigarette brand.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't do that anymore. They couldn't advertise on radio, TV. I think they can still advertise in magazines, which is weird, but that's kind of a dying media anyway.
Yeah.
Premium cigars are a different class. We're treated differently. We never were part of that lawsuit. So we could advertise. We don't have the Surgeon General's warning. We don't need to put that on
Okay. I didn't know that.
But there are companies who take the initiative to do that, but
Sure.
they don't really have to. Now
Maybe they're just trying to cover themselves in the future. Who knows?
I think so.
That's lawyers probably.
Mm-hmm.
I'm married to a lawyer, but that's lawyers.
What kind of law does she practice?
It's funny that you talk about big tobacco getting sued, but so my father-in-law owns a law firm out in Denham Springs, and his partner was one of the big lawyers from Louisiana. But from what I gather, I've never gone back and looked. It was early '90s, but that was part of the lawsuit against I think it was Philip Morris and all of them. So, but anyway, my wife practices family law and personal injury. She does a little bit of everything out in Denham Springs, but mostly family. She's built up a big family clientele out there. So she really likes it. And from what I hear, most lawyers don't like practicing family law. Family law is divorce.
Oh, okay.
Mainly.
I was going to ask, what does that mean estates or
no? It's like divorce, and the reason that most lawyers don't like to deal with it is because kids are generally involved. Yeah. She's found a way to remove herself emotionally, which I guess is a special talent. She has 2 kids, but she removes herself emotionally from the situation, and
right.
I guess can do it. But it would be very hard for me when you're having to figure out how to divide time between kids and fighting over that, and the kids are getting in the middle of it. Anyway, that's what she does. It's totally different than what I do.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and so we have. I'm following up on that because we have a few clients of ours who are attorneys, and I ask what kind of law do you specialize in? And we have one client. He was actually on the podcast. You know Franz Borgart?
I know of Franz.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's made a more of a push on Court TV as like a color commentary, regular kind of not host, but like
Court TV's big.
Yeah. And he specializes as a defense attorney, so he's in that realm.
Yeah, that's totally
defending criminals or accused.
That's
alleged.
The total opposite side of what if my wife stepped into a criminal courtroom right now, she wouldn't have any clue what to do. I mean, I'm sure she would have a general idea of what to do, but she just doesn't practice that type of law. Yeah. So, and once you get out of law school, she's been out of law school for 6-7 years, which is not that long, but the further you get out of law school, and I'm not a lawyer, so I'm kind of talking out of my butt right now, but the further you get out and the more specialized you get in whatever area of law you go in, the further you get removed from the other law that you learned in law school. Yeah. So,
well, I only bring him up because I'm sure he has to contend with that same dynamic of separating emotion.
Oh, you have to.
From you got to provide that person. The lawyer has to provide that service, right?
Every person, it's in the Constitution. Every person has a defense. For any crime, no matter how bad it is, you are entitled to defense under the U.S. Yeah. So we need them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's a job. Like I've followed. I'm really into following high profile murder cases and stuff like that if they're on YouTube and stuff. And Court TV is cool. But when I'm following that kind of stuff, it's just the defense attorneys for some of these people. It's like, how are they defending this awful, person that you clearly know and everybody knows did this, whatever it is, triple murder or whatever it was, but the lawyer still gets up there and fights for their client and tries to get the best result for them. It's crazy.
Yeah. But I'm sure even in family law, there can be some of those like harsh moments, especially because when you're dealing with children, it can get kind of.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day,
Right.
my wife's a human. So, I mean, yeah, there's certain cases that I know bother her. Now she tries to bury that and not bring it home. But, yeah, it's tough, man. And divorce is on the rise right now post COVID. So,
Oh yeah, I've heard that. Like I've read articles.
yeah.
Either COVID made or break you.
Yeah,
if
man. I
if you're
mean,
in a relationship.
cabin fever. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, me and my wife got married in 2018, so we were freshly married, and you kind of find out who you're dealing with,
Yeah.
whether you like it or not, and especially during COVID.
So let me ask you this: how did you guys deal with COVID from the supermarket side?
Oh God, it was brutal.
What were some of the pluses or minuses?
Well, I mean, pluses, the business was great.
yeah, people still need to eat, right?
People always need to eat, and it was plus for us. Now the restaurants got hammered in town. The restaurants and bars got hammered.
Yeah.
But we definitely got the benefit of that at the beginning. I mean, we couldn't keep stuff on the shelves, whether it be daily items or any kind of alcohol too. I mean, people were just buying everything, and people had money to spend. People weren't going anywhere, going on vacation, no extra curriculars at all. So all that money was, I guess, having to be spent.
Yeah. Plus, you had the hoarding dynamic.
Yeah, man. I mean, it was just like the world of the unknown, and I felt like the grocery store was in the middle of all of it. Like it's just one of those places where we didn't get to stop, or we couldn't stop. I mean, people have to eat, so it was dealing with a lot of difficult people. A lot of people that weren't happy, and I mean, employees were not happy. Nobody was really happy to be dealing with that stuff, and we tried to take it in stride, I guess. But the business was great. It's just been a tough rebound since the past couple of years with employment, and it just the fluctuation of business. It's just up and down, up and down, up. It's hard to predict what's coming next. And right now, it's just with inflation and the price of goods being so expensive. I mean, the sticker shock when you go to the grocery store now is I still have to buy groceries, so I know. I mean, it's a wild world out there as far as the cost of stuff. So
what kind of products saw the highest rate of inflation? Do you know offhand, like what?
Oh man, meat.
Okay.
Meat has been going steady.
Like for the same unit, what was it before the inflation, and what is it now?
I can't come.
Or like ground beef, maybe. Like what would that be a good metric? Because that also increased too, huh?
Yeah, I mean,
everything. Anything meat,
red meat especially, chicken.
Okay.
I know went up a lot. I don't deal with the meat or the numbers as far as the pricing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I deal with the pricing and the alcohol. So I don't know what exactly how much it did go up. I just know that it went up a lot, and I know that meat was one of the biggest hit. Now there was not one department that didn't get hit with, or is still not getting hit with the higher cost of goods or some, like, just operating in general. It's just everything is going up. Everything's going up.
So yeah, I forgot, because you really specialize for the family business in the alcohol.
Yeah, I mean,
department.
So my dad is one of the owners. It's Mark. He's the youngest. There's 4 brothers, and my dad is the product guy.
Okay.
My dad is one of the main people responsible for bringing like gourmet grocery stuff into Calandro's and getting more specialty gourmet stuff. I don't know how long ago that was, 40 years ago. And so he's always been into products and different things, and I caught that bug too. So I've always been into different products and trying different things and stuff like that. And the alcohol, the world is endless. There's endless possibilities. There's always something new. And I learned stuff every day, and I like the nerdy part of the grocery business, like behind the products and all that stuff. I'm way more interested in that kind of stuff than the actual business side of the business.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
like the operating, like keeping the books and doing all the little
So my uncle does that. My dad is not involved with any of that kind of stuff, the business side of the business. My dad is involved with the products. So I'm involved with the products too. And like my cousin, who's my generation as well, he's into the operational side. So I've always been into just trying everything. And I fell in love with whiskey. It was on a trip to Kentucky. We went to Knob Creek 10 or 11 years ago. With our old liquor manager, C.J. Weber, who's over at Mathern's now. He runs Mathern's. If you ever go to Mathern's, it's the redhead running around over there. C.J.'s the man. But anyway, so me and my dad and C.J. went to Louisville 10, 11 years ago to pick out some Knob Creek single barrels from Jim Beam. And we tasted Knob Creek straight out the barrel there, and that was my moment. It clicked for me. And being there, tasting whiskey out the barrel with the guy that worked for Jim Beam, who was just an expert and everything there was and he made it interesting, and that was it for me. And so that was 10 or 11 years ago. And since then, I've just been all about alcohol as far as learning about everything.
Craft,
and it's just a lot. Like I said, I still learn stuff every day. Every day there's new stuff that I learn. Yeah. So,
no, that's cool. Yeah. So walk me through like what's involved in a barrel pick, because I don't know the industry that as well as you do, but I try to like listen to what's going on there because it's so relevant to what our business is like too, so I can learn from them. That seems to be a trend, right? With a lot of retailers or package stores or grocers,
single barrels.
Whatever entity sells alcohol, they try to offer a barrel pick. So what is that, and like can you walk me through what that means?
Yeah, and so that's the question I actually get asked a lot.
Okay.
With you asked me what I get asked about Calandros. With alcohol, it's it's about barrel picks. So most of the barrel picks we do come via like samples. They'll just mail us 4 or 5 samples of a certain thing, and we'll taste it, tell them what we like. They bottle it and send us the actual empty barrel with all the bottles bottled, cool. Which generally will yield 20 to 30 6-packs. So about 100, maybe more, 25 to 35 6-packs. So like 180 to 200, 750 milliliter bottles.
Okay.
So anyway, they do all that at the distillery. They send us all the bottles in the cases, and they send us the actual barrel. And then we slap our own label on it with Calandros or whatever we want to put on it, and go that route. Now, that's the sample way. What I was talking about with Knob Creek and this Ezra Brooks pick we have here, sometimes we do go to Kentucky and pick.
Okay.
And so, for instance, the Jim Beam experience, the Knob Creek experience, which we've done 4 or 5 times now, it's awesome. I mean, Jim Beam has their own barrel room. It's a totally separate room from what the general public gets to go tour and go through and all that stuff. It's just for people buying barrels. And you go into this. It's a warehouse full of barrels. But they'll have 4 or 5 barrels laid out in front of you, waiting to be opened, and you literally taste those 4 or 5 barrels or whatever they have pulled straight out of the barrel and pick a barrel right there. Most of you're popping the bung on the barrel right there, and that's the first time that's been popped in years. So and then they thief it with a big long copper tube, and then they pour it straight into your glass. And when you're drinking and tasting that stuff, there's bits of charcoal and stuff in there.
Oh wow. It's
awesome. It's the best way to drink whiskey that I've ever found.
Wow. I think I've seen that little device where it's like
called
a long
thief, a whiskey thief.
A thief, okay.
Thief, like a thief.
Oh, really?
Thief,
wow. Like he's stealing the spirit.
Yeah.
Huh? Because I remember, I don't think I've ever done. No, I've never done like a tour in Kentucky and in like the Bourbon Trail or anything like that. But I've been to it was a sherry winery in Spain, and
Wow,
they have
I've never done that.
Yeah, they have a similar, like when you take the tour, they have that. I guess it's the same device.
Yes. Yeah, it's just to stick it.
But but I guess in there, like they make a presentation of it.
Oh,
where
absolutely.
They like raise it up. I don't know if it's the same in bourbon, but yeah. They got to be careful with that, not spilling it.
There's no bells and whistles. We were just tasting liquid, but I've seen them do that because that stream usually comes out pretty clean out of the tube when they're pouring in the glass, right?
Okay.
Like as far as coming out of there, it's pretty smooth. I've seen people try to like shoot that tube with liquid. Yeah.
Oh man.
But yeah, no, it's cool, man. It's a very unique experience that not a lot of people get to do. We've done it a bunch, and it's like it's work. But I have to remind myself that like people don't get to do this, and it's one of the cool things about my job that we really like to do. And I usually go with my dad, and we bake that in with playing golf. And my dad loves to play golf, and I love to play golf. So
yeah, I remember seeing you at a tournament one time, and you were
yeah.
I didn't realize you were a golfer. So
huge golfer. I'd rather golf than drink and smoke cigars any day of the week. So
what's your handicap? Do you know?
Well, my brain is my handicap on the golf course. I'm 8.5 index. I play entirely too much golf according to my wife, and I'm not good enough to be playing as much golf as I do. I just go out there to have fun, man.
Where do you like to play? Do you have a specific course, or do you have like a circuit, like for regular?
Well,
I guess.
I'm a member at Greystone out in Denham Springs.
Okay.
But I play all over the place. I have a lot of friends at U Club.
Okay.
So I play U Club every now and then. I'll play Santa Maria. I'll play Beaver Creek, just local public courses around here. Just anywhere in town, pretty much.
Do you like the one at City Park? That's a 9-hole course.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up playing golf there. I haven't been out there in 12, 15 years. I don't know if I keep the ball on the golf course anymore. It's just a very small golf course.
Oh, wow.
It's a fun little track, though. It goes up and down the hills and stuff like that. It's a very unique little track. But yeah, I grew up playing City Park and Webb and in Santa Maria every now and then if we got to have a treat. But all the local Breck munis, that's what I grew up playing. LSU golf course too.
Okay. Grew
up playing that.
And when you do like these barrel picks, like you said, you and your dad will golf in Kentucky. Are there any notable courses that you've?
Valhalla.
Okay.
Where Scotty Scheffler just got arrested at the PGA Championship.
Oh, okay.
That's right outside of Louisville, and me and my dad have played it twice.
Okay.
And we played Valhalla a couple times, and we played the University of Louisville's home course, which is cool. But Valhalla's a PGA Championship course.
Okay.
So
have you ever
a beast?
Have you ever been to the Masters as attended?
Yeah,
you were saying that earlier.
I went to the Monday practice round this year. That's the first time I've ever been.
Okay.
I got invited last minute. One of my buddies called me on April Fool's Day, like the Monday before.
Yeah.
And he said, "Hey, you want to fly to Augusta on Sunday and go to the Masters? I got an extra ticket. Somebody backed out." And I thought he was joking. And
right.
It was all expenses paid and everything. And it was incredible.
That's awesome. We had a guest who, Paul Heaton. His dad is a pro, but I forget like what kind of pro. Not one who actually travels.
He's a club professional.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I guess he gets to go. His father does, but. Like Paul's been trying to get on and puts his name in the lottery, and
dude,
every year
it is. I'm a huge golf nerd, granted, it was just a Monday practice round, but I felt like I was floating when I walked on the grounds. It's just like that place was. It's hard. Like the grass is greener than your shirt. It looks fake. It looks fake on TV, but it like in person, it looks even more. It looks like AstroTurf. It's wild. Everything is just perfect there. Everything is perfect. The weather was perfect when we went. There's no cell phones, which was great.
Wow.
You don't see any cell phones. The only
I'm sure they ban that, right? Like they don't want.
Oh, it's super strict. All the rules out there are very super strict. The only cell phones I saw the whole day while we were there were players, like on the range. They had their cell phones, but I didn't see any marshals. Nobody had. So it's just the place is wild. It's like Disney World for golf. It was incredible.
What other courses have you played at that I guess are legendary courses?
Oh man,
For that
4 or 5 years ago, I went to Scotland and Ireland with my in-laws right before me and my wife got married, and I think it was 2017. Played the old course, St. Andrews.
How was that?
The home of golf. It was cool, man. It misted sideways and kind of lightly rained the whole day. It was probably mid 60s, so the weather wasn't terrible. It sounds awful, but for Scotland,
right.
It can be way worse. We played a round of golf right outside of St. Andrews, the town of St. Andrews, at a place called King's Barnes, which they've played some European Tour events at. And it was like 40, 50 mile an hour sustained winds the day we played. And they ended up shutting down 3 or 4 holes on the course after we got off because the ball wasn't staying on the green like after you marked it. So they had to shut down holes on the. It was like playing in a hurricane. But Scotland, man, you get 4, like you can have literally 4 seasons in one day, and all of the golf is mostly walking. They don't have carts. I mean, there's like 1 or 2 carts per club, and it's usually for handicapped people.
Okay.
They don't do golf carts over there. So, man, we played 13 rounds of golf in 14 days. It was wild. And so when you're walking, you have to have your bag with you, but you have to have several different types of clothing, whether it be rain gear or an outer layer to put on or outer layer to take off. It's just the weather's crazy, but man, that was a trip of a lifetime. So I played the old course. I played TPC Sawgrass, the Island Green. I hated that course. It was terrible. The whole course was very hard. It's outside of Jacksonville. The 17th green was cool. The Island Green was cool, but the rest of the course was very, very hard.
Ooh.
Yeah.
What about Pebble Beach?
I haven't played Pebble Beach.
Okay.
I've been to Pebble Beach. I've been to the clubhouse, but I haven't got to play the course.
Okay.
As far as I think that's about it for famous course. I've played a bunch of courses, but nothing really more famous. I mean, the old course at St. Andrews is about as famous as I think you can get.
That's like the mecca, of it. That's where golf originated.
It's where golf started, man, and it's just like you feel it. The whole town of St. Andrews is just golf. It's just that's what it's there for. It's just you just feel golf the whole time. And for somebody like me, it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was totally awesome. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the Scottish people are great, and Irish people are equally just as great. So the whole experience was just cool. I mean, I had never done anything like that, so it was very cool.
Did you get a chance to go to any of the, Scotch distilleries or other whiskey houses there?
We went to Glenkinchie, which is a Diageo distillery right outside of Edinburgh, which is the capital of Scotland.
Okay.
It's a smaller producer. Most of their liquid goes into Johnny Walker. They produce tons of liquid.
Okay.
So Diageo is a gigantic alcohol conglomerate. Their main big international whiskey brand is Johnny Walker, but Johnny Walker's a blend. So they get whiskey from all over Scotland and blend it together. That's one of the distilleries they get it from. So most of the liquid they produce at that distillery actually goes into Johnny Walker. They do have their own labeled stuff, but most of it goes into Johnny Walker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Johnny Walker buys up, or Diageo, and this is not just Diageo, but I'm just using Diageo. Diageo will buy just all these distilleries and use them for production, along with making the brand that they're known for, but basically using it for the production of other things too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you this: if this is true, I think I've heard this years ago. I don't know if it's real or not, or if it's a myth. So tying golf and I guess alcohol together, the 18 holes of golf, and does like a normal, like a 750 mil have 18 shots worth? Is there a relation between like the amount of shots that is poured out of a bottle correlated to like the amount of holes in golf? Because I thought I heard that.
There's 25.4 ounces. Well, actually,
is that how they came up with like the amount of holes in golf is like one shot?
I don't know how they came, but they're in international bottling, and what it's supposed to be is 700 milliliters. And I don't know how many shots that is. In a 750 milliliter, it's 25.4 ounces. So 700 milliliters is probably about 18-ish, 19. So yeah, that could be true.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Ask people. I don't know if you ever had that question.
I'm
going to
look that up as soon as I get off the show for sure.
I thought I heard that somewhere, and I'm not in either of those industries, but I always felt that that's kind of
golf will make you want to drink a whole bottle of liquor. Generally, it's the most frustrating sport on earth. I love it, but it's like a drug. Mm-hmm. It doesn't like you at all, but it always keeps you coming back every time. So.
Especially when you had that one nice shot.
Oh,
that's like
dude,
perfect.
it's like
that's what hooks you in.
You're on 18 and you've had an awful round, and you're on 18 and you hit a beautiful 9-iron from like 170 yards and stick it to 6 feet. Yeah. And it's like, oh, I'll be back in a few days after you've broken 3 clubs in your bag and thrown everything in the lake and all that stuff. So
I was going to ask, have you gotten violent and broke several clubs?
I mean, so I'm a single digit handicap. Golf is frustrating because I'm going out there to have fun, but I also expect a lot because I play a lot. Mm-hmm. So as far as my temper, I mean, I've got a temper on the golf course, but like my worst day on the golf course is way better than my best day at work.
Yeah.
And I know it's so cliche and stupid, and you see license plates that say that, but I always remind myself of that. Like, I'm playing golf. Like, regardless of what I do today on the golf course, I'm still going to have to suit up tomorrow morning and go to Calandro Supermarket. No matter what. So
that's funny. No, it just reminds me, like, with my situation. Now, I got into the cigar world because I was such a fanboy of it. So I decided, let me just make a career of it, really just supplement my nerdy fascination with cigars. But I've been able to separate business too and the pleasure. So I guess it doesn't work for everyone.
That's interesting because what I've always heard, and I mean, granted, I'm selling booze. Now, I don't know if that's what I told you I would have been doing or what I dreamed of doing or whatever. I grew up in the grocery business. I always liked the grocery business. Sure, I'd love to play professional golf. But I've always heard that you shouldn't go into the business that you love doing because it's going to sour you.
Yeah. Yep.
And like
it's appropriate, I think, for some people. Yeah, they would be horrible.
So that hasn't happened to you, though?
Mm-mm. No. Don't get me wrong. There's some days I'm stressed out. I'm like, man, I just want to leave this industry. But then I just love cigars. I smoke like 3 to 5 a day.
That's wild.
I just love.
God, like my head would be falling off the top of my head. Like just I like a cigar every now and then, but it's like on rare occasion. But for some reason, like the next morning, my head is always just pounded. I don't know why.
I think there's some body chemistries, like unique components of an individual where they just don't like it.
Like I said, I love them.
Yeah. But I mean, or even them. They can only maybe tolerate like one a week or one a month.
It's very rarely that I do it just because of the way that I feel. Mm-hmm. And it's not all the time, but like the next day, I always know I smoked a cigar. You probably have no idea.
Right. Oh yeah. And look, I'm kind of self-conscious when after work and I've smoked. If I go out in public, I got to be mindful. Like, I know I look like that. What's Pigpen from Charlie Brown? I probably have the smoke coming out.
Yeah, I mean, I
know, but I don't smell it.
You walked in the store earlier. I could smell smoke on you, but it's not like unpleasant. I know without. I mean, either you were smoking on the way to the store, or you sell cigars and work at a cigar shop. Mm-hmm. So, no, it's. The people that smell like really thick cigarettes is more offensive to me than somebody that smells like a cigar, which you don't really smell people that smell like cigars anymore. But
the cigarettes.
Cigarettes, you can still smell somebody long after they've quit smoking a cigarette, and it's terrible. I used to smoke cigarettes, and I quit because of the way it smelled. I just couldn't take it anymore. Mm-hmm. It just was, I couldn't, like, my hands stunk, and I just didn't like the way my clothes smelled. I just got sick of it after a while.
Yeah. So. Speaking of that, I know that there are a lot of grocers that, they sell alcohol, they sell tobacco. You guys don't do anything with the vapes.
As
Or do
far
you?
as
Like selling any vape product or
tobacco
liquid?
vapes,
Yeah.
no, we don't fool with any of that. We are about to start selling CBD products and THC.
Okay. Yeah, how is that going? Because I've noticed that in Louisiana, at least, like Louis, the CBD beverage, I've seen it in other supermarkets. Do you guys deal
So
with that?
there's several different local brands. There's Florida Leaf, Louis,
Okay.
Crescent 9, I think, is another one. Crescent 9 is at Rouse's, and they're pretty big. I think Florida Leaf is too, but there's a bunch more producers in the state. I don't know a bunch of them because I'm not in that yet. I'm sure I'm going to find out soon. We haven't applied for the license, but
That's a separate license you got to apply for.
It's a separate license. It's only $175, but it's a separate license from tobacco and beer and liquor and wine. So, but they were just messing with it with the bill and the legislator in this past session, and so we were waiting to see what was happening with what they were doing with it. But they've finished all that stuff. I don't know the actual details of what they passed, but they didn't really mess with anything as far as retail THC and CBD distribution. So we're going to start doing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you guys do any of like the Zyn packs?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm doing one right now though.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's a huge category.
Well, I mean, so like I said, I smoked. I quit smoking 5 or 6 years ago, 7 years ago probably, and then but I also chewed tobacco.
Okay.
And I just quit doing that 3 or 4 months ago, and since then it's been Zyn.
Okay.
And it's
cleaner.
It's not tobacco. I mean, like my wife was getting so sick of bottles being around the house full of dip spit and all that stuff. You're talking to you had no idea I had one in. So it's for me. I have used them to help quit tobacco. It's just straight nicotine salt. So I convinced myself that it's way more healthy than chewing tobacco or smoking cigarettes, which I'm convinced that is. I think nicotine is a very good substance. It gives you a lot of energy. It gives you a lot of mental acuity. But anyway, the Zyns have helped me. We don't sell Zyns, to get back to your question, but I do Zyns and whatever.
Yeah, but you could sell it. You have the permit
absolutely.
For it if you wanted to.
We sell some cigarettes. The cigarettes are so expensive, and there's just no margin. We're just not a cigarette account, and obviously some cigars, but that's as far as we go. I mean, I'm talking basic cigarettes and cigars. Yeah. So we don't go too far into the weeds with tobacco.
Mm-hmm. No, but to your point about nicotine, and of course, people are gonna probably criticize me when I talk about this, but nicotine itself is an alkaloid that has like some benefit to it. Now, too much, right, of anything, it could be detrimental. But nicotine occurs naturally in any nightshade plant, right? So nightshade, tobacco's a nightshade, potatoes, tomatoes, I think eggplant. Those have like trace amounts of nicotine too.
Really?
Yeah, people don't know that.
I did not know that, actually.
Yeah.
But no, I do know that nicotine is good for you. And certain, I encourage people, even, I'm not encouraging anybody to pick up a habit.
Right.
But nicotine gives you a little kick if you need one. I mean,
nicotine's also found in a lot of vaccinations as like a medicinal component of these vaccinations. They don't like to talk about that because it goes against the narrative that tobacco's evil, and especially the cigarette side, right?
It's all gotten lumped in together, which, I mean, the only way you could generally get nicotine 20 years ago, the only way you could was tobacco. I mean, cigarettes and chewing tobacco.
Yeah, because tobacco has the highest concentration of nicotine. Right. But any nightshade has amounts of nicotine in it.
Right. And so now, but like the Zyn packets, just for instance, it's just nicotine salt. Now, who knows down the road if that's going to be bad or what, but I've convinced myself that it's better than chewing tobacco and smoking cigarettes, and my wife doesn't hate it either. So
But
that's
then
also
again,
a big thing.
Anything, we don't know what the effects are. Like, I'm convinced in the last episode I talked about there might be a lawsuit against the cell phone industry with the radiation that's probably
it's
projecting
incredible,
and,
man. I mean, and this stuff's all around us, and
Yeah.
I absolutely agree. But yeah, it's just to the point now where it's just like I'm gonna live my life.
Yeah, just relax.
It is what it is, man.
Yeah. We're always being degraded by some stressor, whether we know it or not.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, it helps me. It gives me energy throughout the day, and I feel like it gives me a little mental acuity. So, I'm
What
just gonna
milligram
keep
do you
doing it.
use?
6.
6. Okay.
Yeah,
So-
one at a time, and it's 4 or 5 throughout the day.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was chewing a good bit of tobacco. I was going through a can a day probably. So I had to wean off with the Zen, but I've gotten to the point in the past like 3 or 4 months where it's just straight Zen, and I don't even miss the chewing tobacco, and I haven't missed cigarettes in years and years. Even when I smoke a cigar, like I don't even think about cigarettes, which is a great thing.
To change it up, so Calandro's, there's 2 locations. The original is on Government Street.
Yep.
Then the one you're at is on
Perkins and Segan.
Okay, which is now in St. George, right?
Which is
So how's that been like for people who don't know who are tuning in from out of state? What happened with St. George? What was that about?
Well, I really don't know either because I'm actually a Denham Springs resident. So
okay.
I don't. Now my parents live in Oak Hills, which is in St. George.
Okay.
Segan and Highland. And as far as the business, I don't know what it means for the business and all that. But I do know they're trudging ahead with that.
Yeah.
It sounds like you know way more than me, but I haven't gotten the weeds about it really because, like I said, I'm a Denham Springs resident. So
basically, for people who don't know this area, St. George now, is part of East Baton Rouge Parish, and for people out of state, it's a county, our version of a county. So this area wanted to break away and incorporate their own city. And there was a lot of pushback from the city of Baton Rouge because that meant a lot of loss in tax revenue.
Yeah.
So it went through after, I think, over a decade. Like
Man,
they
it
were trying
seems like it's been going on a long time.
But it finally went through. The courts have decided it's official. They're going to start collecting taxes, I think, in July now. I guess now the sales tax, I don't know if you see that. I guess in any business in St. George will be collecting and remitting taxes for St. George.
See, that's the business side, and I have no clue.
Yeah.
And so that's supposed to go into effect yesterday?
I think this month, I think. Don't quote me, though, but I know maybe that's just a question to just keep in mind.
Well, I haven't really. I've been loosely paying attention to the St. George thing just because it's been going on for so long, and I'm like,
nothing's
never going to happen.
Yeah.
So, but now I'm gonna have to get more versed on it because it is a thing now. So,
and I'm sure I don't know what the tax rate is that could affect the pricing of your alcohol. So, yeah, I'm sure it's pertinent.
So you don't know if the businesses are gonna still be paying East Baton Rouge too?
No, I think, and don't quote me, but I think it's, you're obviously collecting Louisiana state sales tax. And I guess in the grocer business, some things aren't taxed. It's, because it's food.
No.
But anyway, I guess the products that need sales tax collection, I'm assuming for that location, it would be East Baton Rouge.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah. Louisiana state sales tax. And then now St. George.
So no East Baton.
I don't think there's going to be any money now being diverted. But don't quote me. I mean, find out from your. I'm sure your accountant or whoever handles that knows.
That is the side of the business I am totally uninvolved. The business side of the business is I just don't mess with that at all. Yeah. So,
but I guess a lot of your clients, obviously, you're in St. George. You may have heard some of
absolutely.
the talk from your clients.
I'm just anxious to see how it all shakes out. I mean, I guess only time will tell. I have no idea.
Yeah.
We'll see. But Government Street is precluded from that. So.
Yeah, they're in Baton Rouge City proper. So yeah.
But like I said, I just don't really. I don't know if anybody really knows. I mean, what exactly is gonna all happen with that?
Yeah, because I know when that broke out, I guess it was a few weeks ago when it became kind of official, or the court decided okay, this is final. I think it kind of made some national news.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, I saw headlines about it and stuff like that. So I don't know. We'll see. I have no idea.
Yeah. Let's switch it back to I've always been curious about the allocation process. Calandro's is, I think, well known about how they divvy out the allocated bourbons.
Yep.
Walk me through, and especially like assume I know nothing about bourbon because I really don't know a lot. I appreciate it, but how do I? Let's say the big one is Pappy Van Winkle. Yeah. How do you guys distribute that?
So the way we handle allocated stuff, especially the Pappy and stuff like that, is with a raffle every year around Christmas.
Okay.
We've been doing a raffle for, I think last year was the 10th year. This year will be the 11th year. So so we do a raffle, and we'll get 40, 50 bottles. We'll have 10 or 15 Pappies, and then 10 or 15 of the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection, which could be Thomas H. Handy, Sazerac 18, Eagle Rare 17, Eagle Rare 17, Thomas H. Handy, Sazerac 18, George T. Stagg, and William LaRue Weller. So one of those five will get 10 or 15 of those, and then the rest is lanyard, other allocated bottles throughout the year. Birthday bourbon from Old Forester, or I'm trying to think what else we throw.
I'm trying to think of the one.
Elmer T. Lee, just stuff like that. Weller 12, any of the Weller marks, stuff like that. So anyway, we'll put it in a raffle, 50, 60 bottles, and then we'll sell tickets, and all of our ticket money we give to charity every year. The past 2 years, we have raised $70,000 just on ticket sales.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, which is just wild to me. People are still nuts about whiskey.
Yeah.
But 100% of the ticket sales go to, we've done FORE Kids, FORE Kids, the past few years, which is a big umbrella organization for a bunch of kids charities in New Orleans and Baton Rouge. So we've worked closely with them, and they're big partners with Guarantee Broadcasting too, which we partner with for the raffle too.
Okay.
So we sell tickets, and then we just raffle off the bottles one by one, and the person gets the chance to purchase it at MSRP, basically, which is unheard of when it comes to stuff like that, especially like Pappy and anything allocated. If you see it on the shelf, generally, there's a reason it's on the shelf. It's probably because it's just super marked up. So we don't do that. It's just regular MSRP on all the bottles. If you win, if you get a chance to win. So,
for example, what would for Louisiana, and I guess your location, what would a Pappy? Is it 18? They have an 18.
They have an Old Rip 10. They have a 12-year, a 15-year, a 20, and a 23.
Oh, okay. So for 20, what would the MSRP versus what you would see? Marked up too. So
MSRP for a 20, I think is $300 or $400 now.
Okay.
Oh man, if you typed in Pappy Van Winkle 20-year on Google right now, it'd be $3,000 or $4,000.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Is that gray market? Is that like resellers?
That's just.
Or just a retailer that has it, and they're just trying to maximize.
That's retailers maximizing. Yeah. I mean, but a secondary value on the actual true secondary value of a Pappy Van Winkle 20-year would be like $2,000.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
Yeah. So there's a big market for resale whiskey that we have to constantly fight against.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So it has made the whiskey game very hateful and
a lot of headaches
competitive and cutthroat, and man, I just got to the point where I was tired of chasing it. It's hard, man. From a retailer's perspective, we have to chase allocations, not just. I mean, customers think they have to drive around town trying to find stuff. I mean, we have to fight for those to get those things in the door. We're fighting against all other stores to get the whatever it is in the door too. So, man, it's hard, and there's a lot more competition now. I mean, when we were first starting to do this 10, 15 years ago, whiskey was big, but it wasn't like it is now. So we kind of had a leg up at the very beginning, but that's completely caught up to us. I mean, like I said, it's about riding the wave. I don't think the whiskey bubble has popped. Sorry, I'm not trying to derail the raffle situation.
No, that's fine. It's all related. Yeah.
I don't think it's popped. I think it's plateaued. So
okay, so it's flattened out. You don't think it's going to get any even more?
I don't think it can. I thought it was going to burst 4 years ago, and it just kept trucking and COVID really helped that out a lot. And just for instance, like barrel picks, they are everywhere now. Barrel picks were 6-7 years ago were hard to find. I mean, there just wasn't a lot of accounts that were doing it. So now you can't go into an account and not see some type of barrel pick that has any type of whiskey selection. So that's just one of the things.
Yeah. I love asking this question, especially of retailers or sellers of alcohol, because we have to deal with the same thing too. We have our version of that, certain allocated cigars, and we get the same kind of dynamics. I'm always curious as how a particular retailer, what their process is like.
And I mean, so that's for like the super allocated bottles, and we get allocated stuff throughout the year. We've got really good VIP customers. That I'm sure you do too. That spend money and that, and you take care of.
Yep.
It's the same way with us. And we've got allocated stuff on the floor on a daily basis too. So it's all a case by case basis. On how we handle allocations. It's not easy.
Right.
There's a lot of mouths to feed, and there's not enough liquid, and in your case, there's not enough cigars. And that's a hard thing to try to explain to people. Why don't you just order more? Well, I would. I'd order everything if they had it. That's probably why you want it though, because they don't.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is, and that's the consumer mindset. And I have the same mindset too. I'm not saying I don't. Everybody wants what they can't have. So, and alcohol is definitely not precluded from that at all. And it may be the worst as far as the competitiveness and the cutthroatness of all the stuff that I have to deal with. Whiskey is the worst. I mean, there's true money and value in the stuff, and getting stuff at retail and flipping it secondary if you want to. And a lot of these guys do it as a job.
Whoa.
So you can do it.
Yeah, but isn't it technically illegal?
Absolutely.
For me,
sure.
I don't have a permit. I shouldn't. Like that gray market reseller. I don't think enough people realize that you can't do that legally.
No, I mean, I'm sitting here talking about it.
But it happens.
Look, absolutely. I talk about it on the radio all the time. Yeah. I mean, it's. I'm not going to sit here and act like it doesn't happen, and I'm not going to sit here and act like people don't do it. Yeah. And I don't fault people for capitalizing on doing that. However, if say you get to a point with us where you have access to certain things and we catch you doing something like that, the bridge is burned forever. And there's been people and customers that have done that kind of stuff because I'm in this industry, and I feel like I'm an expert as far as how the stuff moves and where it's moving and where to go and look, and I'm all over that kind of stuff. And now, I mean, we've been doing it for so long. We've distilled down the people that we deal with and trust when it comes to stuff like that. So
no, I'm just smiling because we do deal with the same things, and we've caught people. We call them the cherry pickers. That's our in-house term for it.
It's all about trust, man. I mean, it's all about trust, and there's only one way to establish that. Between a retailer and a customer, and it's just do the right thing. I mean, I try to do the right thing by customers, and I fully expect customers to do the same with us. I mean, we're human beings too, and like I said, we see things and we hear things. I got people telling me stuff all the time, like, "Did you see this? Did you see this person do that?" Like it's all the time, and I'm like, no, obviously I don't see all of it, but there's always people telling us stuff. So anyway. It's not a big problem anymore. It used to be, but it's not a big problem anymore. Over the years, you weed out.
Right. And I guess over time, the end consumers start realizing, oh, wait, I just can't request a Pappy anytime. Like, there's a reason why it's...
Everybody asked me the best way to get allocated anything from an account. And there is only one easy, simple. Trust is one thing, but the second way is use your wallet. You just go into a business and support that business and spend money there.
That's right.
You will get noticed. Trust me. It's the people that don't come up to me that just go in the store and they spend tons of money very quietly that I take care of.
So what we try to do, because we implement a similar tactic, and I don't know how it is in the alcohol world, but like let's talk about Fuente, Arturo Fuente. We get rewarded their unicorn, right, the Opus X, based on the sales of the core stuff, the regular, everyday, easily accessible SKUs.
Yep.
So we try to tell our customers, if you want access to some of these unicorns,
just
spend with us. Choose us as a regular, become a regular. And we have with our sales, like our point of sales, we set up profiles so we can keep track too, and then kind of reward and really like take a mathematical approach of how we allocate some of like the really rare stuff.
Like and there's I know there's people that do certain types of point systems and stuff like that. Now with me and my dad, it's like we know. You're in the business every day. You know who's spending money and who's just coming in there and walking in and asking for something and leaving if it's not there. So, and those are not the people that get rewarded. The people that get rewarded are the people that are just stopping by 2 or 3 times a week to grab milk, stuff like that.
They support you on the core items.
Just regular people that are they don't have to tell us. They don't have to go out of their way to say that I'm spending this X amount of money and yada yada yada. We know. We know. You know who walks in your business. It's just how it is. So, man, we try to be equitable about it, but it is hard. Like I said, what you said about like Arturo Fuente, it's the same thing with Sazerac, and Sazerac produces Pappy Van Winkle. They also produce Taka Vodka and Fireball, and so all of that stuff, all of those sales go into Pappy Van Winkle. Sazerac's not leaving the lights on with Pappy Van Winkle. Right. Sazerac is paying the bills with Fireball and Taka, and they want us to pay their bills with that. So it to try and to tell customers and explain to customers, like, if you want more allocation, you got to buy this stuff to get those allocations. We can only do so much. So it's just, and every company, and that's just Sazerac specifically, but every company is similar.
Does that. Every company has their unicorn or their carrot, I call them, and then every company has the core.
Sure.
So,
and I don't know how it is in cigars, but pay to play is not technically legal in alcohol, but everybody does it. There's all kinds of point and allocation systems and shit, and that
they're keeping a track somehow. But it's
yeah.
And they're rewarding the retailers that do them right by the core stuff and helping keep their lights on too.
Which makes our job as a smaller retailer much harder, going against Total Wine and Rouse's and all those, and Walmart and all those people. Those are they buy tons of stuff, and all that stuff goes towards an allocation bottom line. And I don't want to see a case of Blanton's going through Walmart on Segan Lane or something like that. I'd rather see that go through a smaller retailer. So, it's our job to get them, but it's also, the consumer's job to support certain brands to get bigger allocations too. And this is not the first time I've said this. I've said this several times before on the radio, and it's at large. It's at the customer's best interest to pick an account and just stick with it, and that's the best way.
That's what we do, and then some with certain cigars, because we don't have the same. I guess we don't have the same. Restrictions, like how manufacturers will allocate some of this core stuff. Like they got to, offer to everyone. But what we try to do is certain cigars will bundle, like the unicorn with
Right.
X amount of like the core stuff.
So
and everyone has access to it, right?
Right.
So
and I don't know if
I don't know if you guys do that.
No,
Yeah.
but
people, I think there are shops that do
people
that, right?
do that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a traditional practice in cigars. I've noticed like a sample.
Some do, yeah, and I think a lot more cigar shops have enacted that kind of policy.
Okay, because like we don't do that at Calandro's, but I do know there are other stores that will tie bottles to certain things.
Yeah.
I've never felt good about doing that in the alcohol world. I think it's way too much money to try to force. Now, cigars is a totally different situation,
and we don't go crazy. Like there's
Yeah.
some examples of a 3-count sample.
right.
It's still affordable. It's still you know.
But like there'll be stores that say, you want a bottle of Elmer T. Lee, just for example. Well, you got to buy this barrel pick, and then this core crap or whatever, and it ends up being like a $200 tab or something like that.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, and I just don't think that's right. But some people, that's how they want to do it.
Yeah.
There's a million ways to get rid of product. At the end of the day, I just want to get it out the building.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, you're trying to turn it. You're not. Yeah.
Yeah. It as hard as that sounds, it can be difficult sometimes just to sell stuff. I mean, just to figure out how to sell things. So yeah.
Well, look, let's wrap it up before we go. Can you explain this again? This
So
particular bourbon?
This is a single barrel that we did, a barrel selection about a year ago from Lux Row. It's Ezra Brooks. It is, I think, a 7-year. I think it's 7 year, 6-7 year. It's a high rye bourbon, so it is a bourbon, but so it's going to be majority corn. But one of the small grains is going to be predominantly rye, and I don't know what the percentage is. But generally, they'll use a filler like malt or barley to fill, or wheat. Okay. That rye gives it an extra spice on top of the bourbon, on top of that majority corn mash bill. So that's a high rye bourbon. And like a traditional rye, 100% rye will just be really spicy generally. I mean, the rye grain itself is a spicy grain. So with this bottle specifically, you're gonna get those bourbon notes, the vanilla, the caramel, but I really like this one because it finishes spicy with a nice little peppery finish.
Okay.
So
cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
It's
look,
really
before I let you go, we have, if you would indulge me, we have a rapid fire round of questions. Pretty simple.
Yeah.
So let's go. Number 1, Tabasco, Crystal, or other?
Crystal.
Okay. Favorite vacation destination?
I love the Northeast.
Okay.
I've been to Italy. I got engaged in Italy, but I love like the Boston area, like the New England, Boston, Vermont, Maine, New Hampshire.
Oh, I forgot to ask that. Your family history, they originate from Italy?
Yeah, Sicilian.
Okay, Sicilian.
My dad's 100%, and both my grandparents were.
Have you been to Sicily?
We didn't go to Sicily. We went to Florence, Rome, and the Amalfi Coast.
Okay.
Me and my wife got engaged at a winery in Chianti.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. So
very nice.
Yeah, Italy was great.
Yeah. Yeah, I like going to Spain. I went to Italy in '99 with a friend of mine in high school.
It was awesome.
And yeah, really, really beautiful.
And me and my wife went to Paris 3 years ago. Paris and Amsterdam, and that was awesome. Everybody I've talked to has not great things to say about Paris, man, but I loved Paris. I don't know. Maybe got lucky. I don't know what it was, but I loved Paris, and Amsterdam was awesome. Just a cool place. I don't know if you've ever been there. But
that's on my list. Yeah, I'd love to go.
It's New Orleans vibes, but it just felt safe. Like it was dark at night. Like you'd walk down these dark, but you felt safe everywhere you went. And it's a big party town, and you smoke pot, and pot's legal and all that stuff.
The red light district.
Red light. Me and my wife, my wife was actually pregnant with our second kid when we went. And she was actually like 5-6 months, like she was pregnant. But we walked through the red light district in the middle of the day, and I heard it's like 2 totally different scenes between the day and the night, but it was wild. I mean, there's women standing in the window with lights over them, like, and you just walk up to them.
Just selling themselves their wares, yeah.
That's it, man. It's and prostitution is illegal, but it's legal inside of the business. So they stand in windows, and they're not on the street, but they're inside the glass. It's like walking up to a store and buy. It's the wildest thing.
Yeah, Europe and like the prostitution laws are really intriguing. How they handle that.
I'm fairly certain it's illegal, and I know marijuana is illegal in Amsterdam.
Right. People think you could just smoke it anywhere.
Which you can.
From a legal standpoint.
Well, it's illegal. It's illegal. Like, I think it's decriminalized, but it's still not a legal substance there. They just don't mess with you. Like, if you're, I heard the only way they mess with you over there is if you're just acting like an idiot. Mm-hmm. As long as you're being cool. I mean, there's coffee shops, which they call them coffee shops, dispensaries. I mean, every 5 or 6 storefronts. They are everywhere. But the only thing they tell you, you just don't act like an idiot. Mm-hmm. Just act like a normal person and continue on with your day. There was cops around all over. They don't care. It's just, but I didn't know that. It's technically not legal there.
Oh, okay.
But you would think that it when you get there that it's 100% legal. It's just wild.
Yeah, I want to make it a
crazy place.
My bucket list though.
It's a cool place, and the people are really nice and friendly, and just like their sense of humor in Amsterdam. They were just really dry, and they like to mess with you, which is like my personality to the core. And so that was another thing that I just loved about it. It was just a really cool, unique, relaxed place.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Let's see. Number 3. Who would you want to smoke a cigar with, alive or dead?
Alive or dead? Oh, man. Donald Trump.
Okay. Number 4. What is your desert island cigar, if you have one? Like, if you could only smoke one cigar for the rest of your life.
I have no idea.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair.
I have smoked a Pappy cigar that I really liked, a Pappy Van Winkle cigar.
Oh, yeah. Yep. They offer that cigar.
I'm probably going to get hate from that from other cigar people, but
No. It's actually like a well-respected cigar brand.
It was a good cigar.
Yeah.
It was about a $20. I bought it in Louisville. It was about $20-$25 or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the going rate for them, but man, that was a fantastic cigar. I'm not a cigar expert at all, but that was a good cigar.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
And final question: who would you want to hear on a future podcast episode here?
Oh man, locally?
Anyone, locally or nationally, internationally? Yeah.
God, these are hard questions, man. Who would I want to hear on a podcast? Joe Biden.
Okay. Very good. Well,
for an hour.
For an hour.
Yeah.
Hey, if he wants to come out, smoke a cigar, we got the open invite for both. We don't choose. We don't, we'll smoke and talk with anyone.
No, and the reason I said Trump to smoke a cigar with is I just want to ask questions.
Yeah.
I have a billion.
Yeah, it's not endorsement or a non-endorsement. You just want to talk. Yeah,
I want to talk.
Yeah,
you wouldn't want to ask that guy 1,000 questions.
Heck
like,
yeah.
What's going on?
I want to ask questions of anyone, whether Republican, Democrat, left, right, middle. But him, especially because
it's just pertinent right now. But man, the people I would want to smoke a cigar with would be like my grandfather or something like that. Mm-hmm. Just like I lost Calandro, Grandpa Calandro, when I was 3 or 4. So I didn't really know him. I would like to interact with him as an adult.
Right.
Just I've always heard how he was, just stern, old Italian, mean man.
Yeah.
But my memories of my grandfather were awesome. I mean, he loved us. So,
he was just your grandpa.
Yeah, he was my grandpa. But like for my dad and his brothers and stuff, he was tough. Yeah. But that's not my. But that'd probably be at the very top of my list. Would be like Pawpaw Calandro.
That's cool.
For sure.
Well, Taylor, I appreciate you coming out.
Thank you.
If people want to listen to you, said you're regularly on the radio?
I'm on Matt Moscona's show After Further Review on 104.5 ESPN on Wednesdays at 3:45 p.m.
Okay.
It's the last segment at 3 o'clock. It's usually 3:45, 3:50 till about 4 o'clock.
Okay. Every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday, 104.5 ESPN.
Cool.
And they're on in New Orleans and Alexandria, and like I don't know what the stations are, but locally it's 104.5 ESPN.
And I'm sure someone can stream it.
Yeah, just go to After Further Review or Matt Moscona. Look him up on all the socials. He streams all the shows on there too. So
awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you, buddy.
Thanks, man.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
Thanks
I had
again.
a good time. Thank you.
Same here. All right. Take care, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks.